And hey, I don't know what happened to our main host and our theme music and any of that stuff, but welcome to Caching in the Northwest anyway. You know, I think he's going to come back in here. I think this is the podcast from the birthplace of geocaching. Take it from here, Chris.
Where are we? And from the birthplace of geocaching in the great Pacific Northwest. Hey, it's Thursday night at 7 p.m. Pacific. They call me Chris of the Northwest, and we're going to talk about geocaches and geocachers, and suddenly web tabs just unloading themselves from here and all around the world. So while you're wondering if you can be replaced by AI, and maybe that was just about to happen, we'll be caching in the Northwest.
I think maybe AI is taking over without,
without asking politely.
Yeah.
I've always been nice to our robot overlords. I mean, protectors.
Yes.
And suddenly now they're rebelling against me.
Well, welcome back. Glad you're here. And
Thank you.
Welcome to all the listeners, viewers, and everybody out in podcast land. He's Chris in the Northwest. I'm Wits End, and I'm glad you're all here. And tonight we're talking about geocaching and some photos, don't you know, photography with Sonny from the Podcaster Podcast. Welcome, Sonny. Glad to see you.
Hey, glad to be here.
Hey, listeners, you have questions about photography? Sonny's the man to ask. Jump in the chat. Give us your questions. Give us your comments. Talk all about photography and geocaching. Share it through that live chat thing that I see scrolling by already. Before we jump into all that, though, astute viewers will notice that we're down one monkey tonight. So I'm going to tell you that we appreciate the support of our patrons who help keep this podcast coming each and every week. We'd like to thank Land Sharks. They are one of our corporate Denali level sponsors. Whether it's new containers or caching gear or swag or whatever, if it's something you want to get your spring geocaching on, order it online today from landsharks.ca. And another corporate Denali level sponsor is Cachely. It's the premier geocaching app for iOS. Version 8.1 with Cachely Pro features offline maps of the entire world. So you can navigate while offline, do DeLorme things, do counties things. You can finish all them grids and, well, someday CarPlay support. It's coming. It is, really. You can find Cachely in the iOS App Store or go over to cachely.com. And we'd also like to thank Valemount Tourism. Welcome to Valemount, where every season offers its own unique adventure. It's nestled in the mountains, surrounded by towering peaks, lush forests, and pristine rivers. There are just endless opportunities there for year-round exploration. So whether you seek outdoor thrills or a peaceful retreat, Valemount awaits you. Put that "you" in Valemount.
That's right. That's
if you want to know more about supporting the show, click the Patreon link. It's over on the CachingNW.com website. So there. Chris is just struggling tonight.
AI does not like him.
I know. You insult AI, and this is what happens. So let's see. One thing that we'll get to real quick while Chris is finding out which tab to close and reopen again. We mentioned last week during the last CETO season that there were 2,300 events during the 92 days, and the math worked out to 25 events per day on average. So I don't think we ever got to that last year. Chris, you can't insult AI and expect to have a clean show.
Apparently not.
Welcome back again.
I think it might be an issue with the new feature in StreamYard.
Oh.
A feature.
It's not a bug, it's a feature.
And I don't know how to turn it off.
Okay, well,
we're going to wait. Let's see if I can do it here.
We'll stumble through and, welcome you back repeatedly if we need to.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I may come and go. You never know where I'm going to be.
It's true.
Well, while I still have this tab open on my browser, Sonny, welcome to the Caching in the Northwest podcast. I'm going to speak quickly because I don't know when I'm going to be cut off again. Hey, many of our listeners are familiar with you. I mean, they know your voice. You're one of the three main characters on Podcaster, and I've met you. I think I can call you a character. Yeah.
Thank you. Likewise. Likewise.
So you've been in these geocachers' ears for coming up on 20 years.
Yes. Actually, yeah, in July, it'll be 20 years.
Yeah. You know, I was listening to one of your podcasts when you mentioned that, and I thought, well, how long have I been podcasting? I thought,
He thought, and left.
Yeah, he's just going to keep wondering.
Oh, no.
I think we had, didn't we have a cake recently for 15 years? So we've been podcasting quite a while, caching longer.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been good. I started caching in 2004 and podcasting sometime thereafter. So
By the way, I don't see the chat, or maybe I do, but in case somebody asks a question and I don't see it, just
yeah, I will try to
happy
pop
to
it up on the
mention
screen there.
Mhm.
So Chris mentioned in there that you've been doing the podcast for a long time, but you also had a photography podcast. Are you still doing a photography podcast since we're talking about photos tonight?
No, that was with pocketlenses.com. And
Okay.
I just checked the website again. It's been a while. It took a while for it to load, but pocketlenses.com was connected to the podcast. And essentially what I was doing at the time was I wanted to create resources for people to be able to take pictures with lightweight, very portable photo gear. And so that was
Okay.
mirrorless cameras, that was compact cameras, and that was phones. But I try a lot of different things, and not everything works out. I'm sure you don't understand what that's like, but
No,
you just
not a
poke
clue.
around.
Everything works perfectly every time we've tried it. Just like consulting AI overlords.
Yeah, exactly. So I poked around with a couple different things. In fact, during that time of my life, I was also establishing a couple of different photo businesses out here in San Diego, and they did okay. But after a while, I set those off to the sideboard, and Pocket Lenses and the podcast and all the videos I created was also set to the side. And you guys probably understand this. It takes quite a bit of focus and effort in order to keep something like that up, especially week after week.
Oh yeah.
A lot of our focus is in Podcacher, our main podcast. But so I needed to fish or cut bait, and decided that I had too many irons in the fire at the time, and decided, something's got to go. And so that's what ended up. It wasn't getting as much traction as I was hoping. I created a couple different photo courses, etc. But there's just a whole lot of competition out there in the photo world that I decided, I'll put my energies elsewhere.
Well,
And
one of your
here's-
fans, yeah, welcome back again.
I switched browsers. Let's see if
Okay.
this makes any difference.
Well, one of your fans, there you go, is Kevin from
Oh.
Cool Cow Cashers misses Pocket Lenses. So
Cool. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry that hasn't been kept up. There's a lot of great resources there if you can get the website to actually load. I tried it just a little while ago, and it took a while to load, but there's videos there. There's downloadable resources. There's a ton of stuff there. In fact, some of the things I'll be referencing tonight in our discussion about, how to get remarkable or mentionable photos. So, yeah.
I love it. So, are we going to talk about photography and geocaching with you? Is that where we're at in the show notes?
Well, that would be great. I'd love to talk about both of those topics, both photography and geocaching, of course, and the nexus or crossing of the two.
Ooh,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Now, before we get into that, though, how long have you been geocaching?
So that was in 2001, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been geocaching for quite a while, I believe. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nearly the entire time.
yeah, pretty much.
Nearly, yeah. I was one of the early adopters for sure. I'm a geek at heart, and when I found out about something that both took me outdoors and used technology, I thought that is a great thing for me to get into. Yeah.
Well, and San Diego's probably got a lot of great places to cache and take pictures.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you kind of touched on it there. That's a crossing of, I'm a very eclectic person when it comes to interests. I have a lot of different, and some of them may surprise some people sometimes, like, oh, I didn't know he's interested in that, which is great because sometimes I can be in a conversation with somebody and realize that we have things in common that they might not expect. But just a couple of them is both photography and geocaching. I've been doing photography for quite a while, actually since elementary school.
Okay.
Wow.
And then in high school, I was actually, developing in a dark room film and all that.
Yeah.
So, and when I was in a fraternity, we built the dark room downstairs in the basement, and I have experience working in the dark room. And then everything went digital. And
yeah.
Yeah.
So you know about spot tone then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Our photography teacher in college, when I did some black and white darkroom work in college,
Okay.
and he introduced spot tone. He showed about it. He goes, "This will teach you to clean your lenses."
Yeah, no, it's interesting because a lot of the software tools that we use nowadays use certain terms that were from the darkroom, like dodging and burning.
Burning. Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but it's fabulous what we have these days. The tools that are available, just even on your phone, right? For photography is fantastic. But I don't know. There was still some appeal to the physical. And have you guys worked in a dark room before? Either of you?
Yeah, I was going to say right out of college, I was working in a photo lab, right? So do you remember the days where you dropped off your film at a drugstore and got the pictures back the next day?
Or the little photomat booth in the middle of the parking lot. Yeah.
I worked, through the night to make sure those were done and getting back to you.
Fun.
Okay, now, but were you actually in the dark room with the trays and the developer and the fixer and all that?
I started out that way, then I moved to maintenance.
Okay. So there's something that doesn't carry over, which is the smell.
Oh no!
Right? Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Especially in the summer when it would get warm.
Yeah. Boy. I never did any of the chemicals and trays with color photos. I only did black and white, but so that was a whole different world. We never got that advanced.
Yeah, or putting the film on those spiral rolls in the dark.
Yes. Yeah, with a bag or in the dark. Yeah.
Yep.
That was fun. Fun. So we talked about that. You talked about caching, but of course I think you hit on it a little bit, but people are going to ask, if you're going to get into photography, what's the best camera to use? That's probably changed over time, right?
Yeah. Well, and this is not even an original thought from me, but I do subscribe to it. And that is whatever camera you have on you, which means bring something, right?
Right.
Now, if you're looking for high resolution and capabilities to do things like, exposure compensation and other things, then a dedicated camera with maybe a interchangeable lens would be great. But I tell you, with the development of phone cameras, it's honestly the best camera you have in your pocket.
It's pretty amazing.
Easily retrievable. With computational photography, it compensates for a lot of the restrictions of hardware that used to, right?
Yeah.
I just looked it up the other day, but I don't know if you guys remember, but the original iPhone from 2007, take a guess. What do you think the megapixel was on the main camera, right? The lens.
I don't know. 3.
I'm going to go with like 1.2 megapixel.
Yeah, it was 2 megapixels.
Okay, right in the middle.
2 megapixels. Now, just for sake of comparison, and this is like last year's phone.
We had a guess of 4 megapixels.
Yeah. The camera for selfies is 12 megapixels on my phone.
Yeah.
And this side camera is now 48 megapixels.
Oh, wow.
So the amount of clarity and distinction that you have on these new cameras, let alone the ones that have multiple actual lenses.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And then I touched on computational photography. I mean, now with fast processors and the introduction of AI and things like that, that is a pretty impressive camera. Of course, there's certain things you still would be better off with a dedicated camera with interchangeable lenses and the ability to use a strobe and things like that. But to be honest, that camera, especially for geocaching, it's perfect.
once upon a time, I got not really heavily invested, but I invested a fair amount. I had some remote flash heads. This was my I carried this D90 around a lot,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I got the extra side grip on it and stuff.
Nice.
Spent a
Yeah.
lot of time chasing my son around high school sporting events and doing all of a lot of my pictures are in some high school yearbook somewhere.
Oh, okay.
But I went and had to dig this out of the closet for this podcast because I haven't
Right.
used it in years. It's
Right.
still a great tool.
Yeah.
And I've got all those remotes and stuff for it. But yeah, maybe
Yeah.
someday.
And I went and bought a similar body so I could borrow his lenses.
Yeah.
Right. Because that was the expensive part.
Well, yeah,
is.
that was, you talk about which the camera you have with you. The big
Mhm.
debate back when I was in this was either Canon or Nikon. That was really the two big
Yeah.
honchos. Which one do I buy? And the
Yeah.
answer we always gave was whatever all your friends have.
Right.
Because then you
Right.
can change gear and trade gear and support each other with it. Yeah.
Yeah. And Chris, you kind of touched on it. Glass, the lenses
Mhm.
were usually what lasted. And if you picked decent glass, then the bodies could change.
Yeah.
If you stayed with the same manufacturer, right? But here's a quick little side note. I was originally a Canon shooter, and I had some of the best glass around. They're called F-class lenses,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
and these were lenses that were like really high quality, and you paid for them. But I started using that, and about the time I began my couple of photo businesses out here, I said, you know what? I'm going to explore and just experiment with mirrorless cameras. And I went whole hog, like everything went to mirrorless. And so I went to the Fuji system.
Mhm.
But the most painful part was selling all my old gear, used. And it was the F-class lenses that was like, oh, these are so nice. But somebody got some good deals on my old Canon lenses. Yeah.
Well, Cool Cow Casher says Sonny introduced me to mirrorless photography on podcast.
Yeah.
Quickly developed a serious case of GAS, and thousands of dollars later, here I am.
Yes, gear acquisition syndrome. It is absolutely something that's infectious, and you just have to inoculate yourself from that, and just realize, what is it that you really need versus what do you really want.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks for telling us what GAS stand for. I thought maybe he had some intestinal distress.
Unfriendly
I was tempted. I was really starting to look hard at the whole mirrorless world. Just about the time I stopped doing a lot of shooting, and so I just kind of fell away from it altogether. But yeah, there's some really nice stuff in the mirrorless world.
Mhm.
There are, and I've written several manifestos, if you will, about the advantages of mirrorless cameras, and I still wholeheartedly believe, it's just a different world. But I've shot professionally for years now, everything from wedding to theater companies to museums, architecture, family portraits, and I've used only my mirrorless system, and you know what? It does the job. I get paid. So.
Mhm. And Sonny, that's why when this topic came up, you were the first person I thought of. It's like,
Thank
we've
you.
got to get Sonny to talk about photography.
Excellent.
But I agree with you. The glass, even if the megapixel count is much lower, the glass makes a better picture.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah, and conversely, inexpensive or if you're taking
Mhm.
shortcuts on your glass,
Mhm.
it can degrade even high megapixel sensors because you simply cannot get the clarity of it. And so when you're looking at the price tag of some of that expensive lens, there's probably a reason behind it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's built well and designed to stay that way.
Yeah. You can still get some great pictures. You just may not get that pristine quality, but sometimes maybe that's not what you're looking for. I mean, there's this huge trend a while back where, do you remember when Instagram, they had all these filters and you purposely put in lens blur and what is it called? Lens light leaks, like intentionally making it look like
old film.
Yeah, like a plastic lens camera.
Yeah.
I found that fascinating.
Well, I've got, this is a virtual background behind me, but I put a little lens blur in there to give it, that.
Oh, okay.
Look.
Clever.
So, Yeah.
Well, this is a genuine blanket behind me.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's authentic. Yeah. No lens blur.
Keeping it real.
Just go get a green blanket, and then you can have whatever you want behind you.
That's an idea. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, green blanket.
So when we're out and about, we're carrying our phone, right?
Yeah.
These lenses are designed to be used pretty close, right? Up close. You got your selfie one that's, about an arm's length away, and it's going to work well. So the photos we take while geocaching are for virtual caches or earth caches, prove that you were there.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice or tips for our listeners while they're taking these selfie photos, these infinite virtual cache selfies?
Yeah, well, here's a couple things, and this actually bleeds over to what I'll discuss in more at length a little bit later. But with any photo, awareness, like just being aware and intentionality, I think is like key. Don't accidentally leave something in your photo that shouldn't be there because you were just in haste. And conversely, don't leave something out that you wanted to have in the photo that might add value. So I think awareness, and I can talk a little bit more in depth of that a little bit later, but just, I think a lot of people take the snapshot, and that term means just like, right. It's a picture. It captures some content and proves you were there. But honestly, if you just want to take a little bit more time, be present in the moment and be aware and intentional. I think just that, unless you're rushing off to go try to do 500 caches in a day and you just got to get going. But if you have the time and you're in a beautiful place and it's a memorable location, why not? Right. So be intentional, take the time and get those shots. I do have some, speaking of gas, but this is not expensive gas. I have a couple show and tell pieces to show you.
Oh, please.
You mentioned selfie. And as non-trendy as it may no longer be, a selfie stick is something that you can collapse and you can put in your backpack, and it extends your arm by enough so that you don't have this look, right?
Yeah.
Because everybody's seen that look, right?
Well done. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. So this is my favorite. Actually, my nephew was he knew that Uncle Sonny was into photography. So he was at a wedding one day and he says, "Uncle Sonny, check this out." And so this is a selfie stick tripod. And as far as I know, I don't know the brand. It's made somewhere in China. And there's probably, so just take a look at this. It's got a little removable remote there, which
a little bigger than an umbrella handle for those who are listening, right? Yep.
Yeah,
there you go.
Or slightly larger than my head.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So this is the remote that is Bluetooth to your camera that you can trigger it, and it sits right there. And this does two really important things. It is both a selfie stick, so it's got the selfie stick, and this thing is almost as tall as me if I extend it, which would do no good right now. But the other part is it's a tripod. Watch this.
It truly is a tripod. Okay.
That's good.
And then again, if I extended that, it would hold onto my cell phone, right? And you can do selfies with it towards you, or you can shoot in the other direction. And this sucker has been used so often. I do have a tip. When it's really tall and your cell phone is at the top, the last thing you want it to do is blow over or knock over. So take your geocaching backpack and put it on one of these legs, and it's a lot more difficult for that thing to tip over.
Yeah.
If you don't have a backpack sitting on one of these legs, it can go over. So that's a tip for you.
If that thing's 5 feet tall, that's a lot of travel before it hits the ground.
It is. Yeah. And my phone has taken that trip.
So this is real world advice you're giving.
Yes. My poor phone has and then once I realized that the propensity for that to happen, I said, you know what? All I need to do is just set my backpack down on one of those legs, and it saves it. I did want to say one thing. That little remote that I showed you seems to have a limited distance. So it's great if you're using it for the selfie reason, but when you step farther back away from it, it doesn't seem to have the range. Okay. So I went onto Amazon and I bought a cheap again, I don't care about the brand.
Right.
Here, I'll hold it still, maybe, but there's no brand name on this. And I usually keep this in my pocket. This thing has really good range. And so I can step
Bluetooth.
back. Go ahead.
Again, that's Bluetooth.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So you just pair it with your phone, and then I can take a full family photo.
Mm-hmm.
I can step pretty far back. Little tip there. I will turn on the flash on my phone intentionally because I can't tell if I'm taking a picture or not.
Yep.
But if I turn on the flash and then I push this little button, I can see it's taking a picture. Because before I learned that trick, I would just think I'm taking a picture, go back, and it didn't even trigger once.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
So
or you're standing there for 5 minutes. Did it go? I don't know
did it
yet.
go?
Just keep
Did it
smiling.
go? Yeah.
Yeah, I've done the self timer with the flash on for that. Yeah, so you can see the flash. It goes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So run over
Yeah.
and get in the picture. Well,
Very
and
good.
one other bonus I think to that particular selfie stick is it doesn't look like a selfie stick.
No.
There are places that won't let you bring selfie sticks in to
Oh.
public places, and
Yeah.
you might you might get it taken away from you if you have it in there somewhere, but it doesn't scream selfie stick to me.
No. And it's
Right.
very portable, and it sits in my backpack 100% of the time.
That's
Mhm.
cool. I like
Oftentimes,
that
I'm
one.
like, oh, it's a good thing I have this
I-
with me.
When you pulled it out, I thought it was a monopod. Right. So
Oh.
just the stick itself,
Yeah.
which allows you, to get your camera into different angles, but you can still hold it somewhat steady.
Mhm.
But having that as a true tripod,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you're doing video,
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a video snob, right? I want the camera steady, right?
Yeah.
I can move around, but if that camera is, twisting, turning,
Yeah.
that just bothers me. The
Yeah.
shaky cam, I don't like it.
Here's another use of it, and like I said, this thing will extend out to like
Mhm.
really, really long, 5 feet. Right? You can put your camera on here, turn on the remote, and then you can get like bird's eye view images
Mhm.
from
Mhm.
way taller than you. So you can get above a crowd shot and just hit the remote and make a guess, maybe put it on wide angle, and you can get like, because I've been at geocaching events where I'm the short Filipino guy in the back, and it's like I'm trying to see or get a picture, but by using this thing, I have an advantage to get over the crowd shot. Or maybe what you want to do when you're geocaching is take a selfie from an intentionally exaggerated, elevated view, and then you can get a picture of yourself that way. That would make an interesting picture. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
just it's limited by your creativity.
Or, if you're climbing a rock wall, all you need is a couple inches off the ground to make it look like you're way up there and
Yeah.
you're only a foot off the ground, but nobody knows that.
See, creativity. There's what I was talking about.
Absolutely.
B Pendragon says he keeps eyeing the mirrorless world, mostly for IBIS and pixel shift.
Mm.
I don't know that IBIS.
I'm not familiar. It sounds familiar, but
And to make camera scanning my film easier.
It's because ibis is a bird, right?
That's what I was going to say, but I didn't want to pronounce it. And they go, oh, no, you don't pronounce it.
So a
You
quick
say
Google
that."
search says integrated background information system, but I don't know that that's right.
Oh, okay.
That could be.
I haven't used my DSLR in years, just me and my phone. Yes.
So
Yeah.
Sprouter. Yep.
In-body image stabilization.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
All right.
that makes much more sense. Yeah. We
That's
would have
the way-
gotten there eventually, B Pendragon.
I liked the in-flight blade inspection system I found online.
Ooh.
Where the
So what he's
Institute for
talking
British
about
Aerospace.
is there can be image stabilization in the lens or
Yep.
in body.
Yeah.
And so, image stabilization can come into play. But Phil Flash is a whole lot of yes.
Yeah.
I see the comment about Phil Flash.
Is
Yeah.
it? Yeah. It's
Absolutely. Absolutely. And right now, I mean, I can't see overcoming this, but right now, phone cameras simply do not have the capacity to really truly do Phil Flash.
Right.
I will carry a very simple Yongnuo strobe. It's a flash unit, and that thing's powerful enough so that if I do carry around my my interchangeable lens mirrorless camera, it actually does. I mean, like to get a picture where you light yourself up and the background may have been brighter and you want to
Mhm.
light up those are the times that I do. And you know what, I still do carry my mirrorless camera on those special occasions. Like Sandy and I went to Alaska, and for sure I was going to bring my camera gear
Right.
because in those situations I may not be back for a little while.
Yeah.
But for a lot of typical geocaching situations, yeah, the phone is more than enough.
Right. But if you're going to Alaska, you want that shot of that bald eagle flying, right?
Yeah.
And the phone
Mhm.
lens is just not going to zoom in enough that you can
Yeah.
get more than 4 or 5 pixels worth of bird, right?
Yeah, blurry.
You want that big zoom lens so you can go in and and see each individual feather flapping.
You should have
Yeah.
seen that fuzzy blob in person. It was
Oh
really
man, that
something.
was something. Can you see the white spot on the front there? That's his head. Yeah.
All
No, they
right.
did.
Well,
They got some great pictures.
you mentioned geocaching. Let's go back to geocaching. People like to take photos of geocaches when they're out, often of the geocache itself. But maybe we don't want to give away any spoilers. Do you have any advice for people doing?
Yeah, well, I think everybody can have an opinion about this. My particular thing is I wouldn't want to give a spoiler for that reason to ruin the experience of another geocacher who wants that aha moment of
Mhm.
discovery and experience, right? So what I'll do is I'll make sure that if let's say the cache is rather common and innocuous, and it doesn't matter what it is. Let's say it's a film can or a bison tube or a preform. I would just pivot so that you're not showing where it came from, right?
Yeah.
Maybe find an interesting scene, walk a few yards away, take the picture. So you're showing that you got the cache and
Right.
you're triumphant, right? But you're not necessarily giving anything away. Now, if the cache container itself is the thing, whether it's I don't know, camouflage rock or a pine cone or something like that, then you really don't want to give that away because that is,
Mhm.
that's the discovery point right there. Another thing that you might be able to do is take an innocuous photo that doesn't give it away. For instance, maybe a close up of the inside of the cache.
Or
And
maybe
this
just
is
the
where
log
using
itself.
what's that?
Or maybe just the log itself.
Yeah, maybe just the
Yeah.
log itself, maybe the inside of the container, and using a macro lens and close up photography would accomplish that as well without giving away too much of the scene. So I'm sure there's a lot of people who have other ideas.
Okay, Sonny, let me ask you a geocaching etiquette question.
Okay.
Do you consider a picture with the container enough to say, yes, I logged it? I didn't have a pen, so I took a picture.
I don't know. I guess I would go back to the cache owner if they're willing to accept it, right? Personally, I didn't have a pen with me is starting to wear thin because I have done that before. No, I've done it
I
before.
knew I liked you.
I went running one time and all I had was a water bottle and my clothes and shoes and running shorts on me. Right, I did not have a pen, and I went running out and I went, "Oh, this is one of those times I've talked about," and so I just wanted to put in TP for Team Podcaster, and so I genuinely did. No, I did not draw blood. I found a plant. I did.
Mhm.
I found the plant. I found a little twig, and then I got enough of the. I guess it was chlorophyll.
Yeah.
To put TP. And honestly, I was like, oh, I'm not going to run way back out here. This was when I was in Norway.
Oh,
Visiting
wow.
Norway.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wasn't planning on coming back on that particular run. Another time, Sandy and I went scootering around Mission Bay here in San Diego, and both of us had no writing instrument on us, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is the stuff we tell our listeners not to do. So what we ended up doing was we bought a box of golf pencils. I'm serious.
Uh-huh.
We did. We bought a bunch of golf pencils and we started sticking them in everything that we could possibly carry. Like, I'm serious. Like fanny packs. My Tilly hat. I put one in the Tilly hat. Selah has a dog backpack that I use. I put one in there, so I'm like, I am not going to let this happen. So I don't know. I guess a photo as a last ditch effort, if you really don't have. Hey, here's an idea. Like,
Oh, do tell.
maybe stick a pen on your camera or on your phone somehow, right?
There you go.
Maybe tape a little a refill thing as an
Mhm.
emergency. So you always have a pen with you.
Okay, Sonny, let's be honest right now. Do you have a golf pencil in your sock?
I'm not wearing any socks.
Oh,
So-
okay, okay.
But if I were,
Oh, carve out a little spot in the sole of your shoe on the inside
go.
there, so you can stick that pencil in.
yeah. See, there's creativity coming in action
Yeah.
again.
Let's stick with the whole idea of creativity.
Okay.
What are some creative ideas you have for people trying to tell a story of their geocaching day using pictures?
Yeah, I love doing this. Some people just want to document a portion of their day, but especially if you're somewhere where it's truly an adventure, I would say be intentional. Once again, be aware if you kind of recognizing that theme. Here's the deal: take lots and call later. Like decide later. You can't really make a photo that you forgot to take. So
Mm.
you know, here's some ideas from film. An establishing shot is usually something at the beginning of a movie where it shows like an overview. Oh, you're in Los Angeles, or you're on a
Mhm.
spaceship, or you're a castle. You're back in time. An establishing shot is something that you might want to do when you're doing photos. So maybe take it from the point of view from your car when you're heading out to go to that cache, and then as you go out, take some action shots, some movement shots, and of course include people, maybe people that were in your group.
Mhm.
Don't forget the medium and close-up shots. We talked about macro shots. Oftentimes people forget, but some of those can be some of the coolest shots that you get that day. And don't stop once after you've gotten the cache. After you've got the cache and you're headed back to your car, to wrap it up, to get to the end credit, so to speak, show the exit and close the story. Maybe getting back to the car, maybe having dinner after a long day of caching, something that kind of tells people, we accomplished the mission and it's the end. So you have a beginning, you have a developing story, and then you have a closing shot, maybe the same car from a different point of view or whatever. So those are some ideas, but all of that takes you being intentional and aware, because if you forget and you just go trekking off, find the cache, come back, you realize I hardly got any photos.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah.
Especially that final shot, right?
Yeah.
That's when I forget. It's like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
Check that off in my mind, move on. We're doing
Yeah.
other things now. But
Yeah.
that's important.
Okay, so you've taken these photos and you want to share them somewhere. Us old people often think Facebook, Instagram. There's all kinds of newer fangled social media platforms out there
Speak for
now.
yourself, Sonny.
Yeah. But where else might people share them? I mean, you can put photos attached to the logs, but I don't know if you're going to want to do a whole sequence to tell the story there.
Yeah, no, it's something that I've tried to figure out myself. I created a blog specifically so that I could annotate my photos.
Mhm.
I didn't want to be limited, so I have a personal blog. It's actually has no intentional audience. I write it for myself. I take pictures, and again, I write about a huge variety assortment of different topics on this blog. Everything from photography to skateboarding to knot tying to knives to scootering. There's probably something I'm forgetting. Oh, lock picking. And so I just write about stuff, and I like to illustrate it with photos. But if you're not a writer and you just want to get photos together, what I'll often do, and it's very quick, is I will use Google Photos. And there's lots of resources out there, guys. I mean, there's so many. There used to be one called Picasa that I used to use, and I think that went away.
It did.
Yeah, but Google Photos, I think, is going to be around for a while, and you can put a lot of photos on there for free before you cross over, and unless you have an exorbitant amount of photos, like I do. So I had to start paying. But here's the deal: it connects with your phone, and it'll upload all your photos up into the cloud, and you can decide on the resolution to save a little space. But here's the coolest thing: you can create an album pretty quick, both on your phone or on the desktop. and you can then curate your photos, right? Choose which ones you want. Again, you took a bunch of photos, cull the ones that you want to put into the album, put the ones into the album that you want, and then you can give a singular link to that album to wherever you want. You could put it in your geocache log. You can put it onto Facebook. You can email it to a friend or text them to, and the viewer can then decide, holy cow, there's 75 photos here. I really don't want to look at everything. I'm just going to scroll through this and say, oh, that's an interesting one.
Right.
But that way you can curate it, decide which ones are interesting, put it in order of a story. So I like Google Photos. I think Amazon Prime allows you to do something similar. And there's probably a lot of services that allow you to build albums. But Google Photos is pretty easy for me. So
I do that, especially if we're out with a group. Go for a weekend trip or something. I'll make a Google Photos album and then share it, because how often do you have a trip where my phone has pictures of you and your phone has pictures of me, and I want to see, so let's throw them all together and then we can all get all the photos there.
That's a good point. The collaborative aspect of it, of Google Photos, if they have an account as well, it makes it pretty easy. Yeah.
Well, going back to some of the things, I am really Mrs. Picasa.
Yeah.
Lost Ken, part of our research department, says, yes, they do make a pen pencil holder that clips onto your phone. Of course they do.
Of course they do.
And Starcasher says, I used to take a picture of the sun setting at the end of a caching day. I haven't done that recently. I need to start doing that again.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, your creativity, like maybe doing some silhouettes, right? Or maybe holding up the cache against the setting sun as a silhouette. It really is limited by your creativity. And if it doesn't work out, you just don't
cost you anything.
It doesn't cost you anything, and you don't post it. So you only post the stuff that makes you look brilliant, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow, look at those pictures he takes.
Every picture he takes is great.
You didn't see the 75 that I moved and were blurry and caught a lamppost on someone's head.
That's one good tip, is just cull out the bad photos and keep the good ones. But you mentioned, as a professional photographer, you've taken a lot of pictures in a lot of different situations and locations. Are there any simple tips that you can share with listeners so that they don't have to have quite so many photos to call out, make everyone they take look maybe a little bit better?
Yeah, for sure. And you've touched on something that I'm very passionate about. It's not photography really strikes a chord with me, because it's an intersection between creativity and that artsy side of me, and also the technical side. You're not just dealing with a paintbrush and paint or sculpting. You're dealing with technology, and you've got to learn how to do that. So for me, I'm very passionate about this. I could talk about it at nauseum, but I won't. So what I'm going to do right now is just drill down to some key ideas. Now, in my opinion, and the opinion of other people too, there's about 3 things, maybe 3.5 things to keep in mind in order to make a memorable, a truly remarkable image that people are like, wow, that's pretty cool. And those are subject matter, light, composition, and what's been known as the ideal or decisive moment. So subject matter, light, and composition are the big 3. The decisive moment is sometimes a little hard to capture and takes a lot, but there's way too much ground to cover. So I'm only going to touch on one of these subjects, and even then I'm only going to skim the surface of it. And that is a composition, because that is something that you can certainly do with this camera, is some ideas of composition. And it's often overlooked. In haste, a lot of people just take a real quick snapshot. It's poorly composed, it's poorly lit, it's filled with distractions. So I'm going to give you guys 5 suggestions, and you can write them down or just keep them in mind when you're out there. The first one I've kind of touched on is slow down and be intentional. Make a noteworthy photo. Don't just take a photo, make one. So in other words, slow down a little bit, unless you really, really are in a hurry and need to get out of there. Like maybe some muggle saw you putting the cash back and you needed to not be there anymore. But if that's not the case, slow down. And you know what? by the way, taking selfies or having somebody take a picture of you at the cache site is what we call a muggle deception technique, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We talked about this on the show. Sandy can have a camera or her phone and go like, okay, here, and then I'm down on the ground near the bush and doing this, and people aren't wary anymore because they're like, oh, he's taking a picture next to that trash can. I wonder why. The second one, so that was the first one, just slow down, is compose your shot in camera so your main subject is the main subject. So just take your time, compose the shot, and make your main subject the main subject. And be aware of distracting elements like objects or people in the frame. You know, this is often like the rookie move. Trash cans, other people, maybe a light pole coming out of the heads. Right. By the way, that's another reason to avoid LPCs altogether. Awareness is the key. And, you know, I know some of you are thinking this because I've seen it done and I've done it myself. I have software on my phone that can remove things from the photo. And yeah, I get it. I've done it both in Photoshop and in camera, but why rely on that? You know, here is a pro move that you can do instead, and that's move. So move the lens, right? Move your body. This, you like, just because you are in this position and you want to take a picture of that thing doesn't mean you have to stay here. You can just move. And it's amazing how the perspective of what's behind that object will change just by moving a little bit like that. So move left to right, move the camera up and down, you know, change the elevation. Maybe use the main subject that you're taking a picture to block out that trash can. Yeah. Or distracting thing. Compose your shot in an interesting way. Don't just smack in the middle of the frame. Maybe move them to the left and leave some white space for interesting things in the background. Maybe shoot from super high, like I said, with a selfie stick, or an interesting shot that many people forget is to shoot from super low, right? Because, and it's those angles that people go like, oh, that's because everybody sees pictures from head height. Right. Everybody takes pictures, okay, right? But if you shoot from an interesting angle, maybe from inside the cache, you know, set that timer, put the camera inside the cache, face it towards you, and then, you know, you're coming in or something like that. That would make some interesting photos, I think. And your camera is so portable. You could easily put it in an ammo can and then take a shot from inside the ammo can looking at you with that remote or that timer. So that's 4. Number 5 is give yourself lots of options to choose from later. And I've said this. There's a lot of things you can try, and you should. It's not film anymore. It's not expensive. You don't have to take it to a photo mat. It's pixels. But don't just spray and pray, as they say. Be intentional about every shot. Take several shots, but change something about each shot. So you're not just same shot. You know, I will do the same shot if I think somebody blinked. And in crowd photos or group photos, I'll say, let me take a few because somebody's going to blink, and I really don't want to have to Photoshop in eyes later. But take something different. Don't just keep taking the same shot over. Move, pivot, change your perspective. So those are some tips, and you can do that all with your phone, composition, and just be aware.
I love that. Yes, when you're taking photos, take multiple, but don't just stand in the same position and go click, 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 click. Right. No, even if you move, you know, a little bit, I find going down, going low, and shooting up to be, people go, wow, that's a great picture, because they're not used to seeing that angle.
Yep. Zoom with your feet.
There you go.
Yes, very good.
Starcacher says the rule of thirds is something I learned from Sonny on Podcacher.
So quickly, if you imagine, and a lot of cameras will allow you to put this grid on, it's like a tic-tac-toe grid. All right. And basically you think about dividing your screen into 9 squares. So you've got these lines that intersect. Speaking of which, those where they intersect, those are the PowerPoints. Yeah. But the rule of thirds says, you know, if you have a horizon, don't put it right in the middle, put it on the upper third or lower third. Or let's say that you're in the picture, put yourself in a third over here or a third over here. And it just makes it a more interesting picture as opposed to being right smack in the middle and the horizon line being right here. Yeah. That is a static shot. So,
exactly.
Oh, Jim, I'm glad you pick something up from there. The rule of thirds. That's excellent.
Yeah, that's great.
I always use the lower third when I'm taking a horizon shot that I want for a background on my phone later. Let
Good.
the icons, cover the sky, and then you see what you're really shooting, like, Mount Rainier in the
Yeah.
lower third of unused screen
Yeah.
space. So
Yeah. Well, or take both. Like, for instance, let's say you're at the
Mhm.
Grand Canyon, right? I'll move it up to the upper third because the Grand Canyon is
Right.
the subject. But let's say that you're out at the ocean and the beach and the sky is on fire with clouds. Then what you want to do is move it down because the ocean's not that interesting. It's flat water and you've got
Yeah.
this fantastic looking sky. So, be aware and also try both things and see when you get home, like, wow, that really works for me.
hmm Subway Mark says some of my best images are upshots with clouds above the subject.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's a
Good
great
stuff.
idea. Yeah.
And finally, from Fear the Tubas, wow, I could listen to Sonny talk for hours.
Let's do that. Let's talk for hours tonight.
my wife, Sandy, would disagree.
Okay, I do not want to make her angry.
Now, do you use any of those? I'm going to put this in air quotes, the fancy modes that are in the photo apps, like portrait, panoramic,
Oh, okay.
or do you do
Wait,
that all afterward?
All right. So I have an iPhone and it has, I think, is that what you're talking about? Like the portrait mode?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's interesting. And that's where computational photography comes in because portrait mode will actually do an artificial f-stop. It'll make it look like you've got a shallow depth of field.
Yeah.
Right.
So like this blanket behind me with the exact same lens, the AI or computational photography will blur this stuff out. And that's fascinating because what it does is it highlights the person, the subject matter. Like it recognizes, and it does that with my dog too. I take a picture of my dog, and if I use the portrait thing, it will intentionally. And on some of them, you can even alter the depth of field after the fact. It's great. It's like,
Yeah,
oh,
isn't
I
that
want it
amazing?
to be super shallow depth of field, or I want it to be slightly blurry. It's great. On Pano, Chris, I think you mentioned the Pano.
Panoramic.
Yeah, and that's where you turn it on and you do that. Okay, that is one of my favorite for several reasons. First of all, do you realize how many megapixels it's taking in on one? I mean, it's huge. I said that this thing does 48 megapixels.
Right.
When you pano it, you're getting the amount of information and data compared to a DSLR. It's like huge. The other thing is I will do a long pano, and I did one the other day at the beach, and I can decide later, this, I like this element over here,
Yeah.
and I'm going to keep this one here. And you can crop it after the fact, and you can actually get, multiple pictures from that one picture. So I do use the pano feature quite a bit, and I like it. Something that some people haven't tried is doing a vertical pano,
Yes.
like of a building. That's an interesting effect. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's pretty cool. So next time you try, do a vertical pano of something that's vertical, and you can get an interesting effect that way too.
I tried a pano from a train window one time. Just turned it on.
Oh, wow.
That came out with some really interesting looking shots.
Yeah, why not?
Don't move the camera. Hold it still. Let the vehicle you're on move for you.
Or wait. Here's a fun one to do. Start the pano over here and have your subject here, right? And then you start the pano and they're out of the frame. Have them run behind you, and then go over here, and then finish the pano, and you'll get
twins.
You'll get twins. Yeah. That's a fun thing to do too.
Yeah, we've done that too.
Yeah. Now, on the computer I use, I have two screens. So those nice pano shots fit nicely across both monitors.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah. That's what I like to use them for.
Oh, okay. Yeah, clever.
Well, I was gonna say we're coming on the top of the hour, but real quick, we talked about photos all night. Does any of this advice carry over to videos, or is that just a whole different animal?
I would say it's a cousin, not a whole different animal, but it is different enough. And that is because of the obvious movement aspect of it, right? With a still frame camera, you can compose your shot, you can be intentional. With video, I mean, that takes a lot of skill, both on the capturing side, and then for me, on the editing side. I mean, I really admire people who are able to quickly select and cull and put together a good story. I mean, you know, Josh, the geocaching vlogger, does an excellent job. He's only one example. There's so many people out there who capture videos well. So they'd be the person to talk about. But some things do translate over, right? Composition matters.
Lighting.
Being aware of your background surrounding lighting matters. I mean, the things that really bug me are when something is so extremely backlit you can barely see the image, and all it takes sometimes is that pivot idea, like, hey, get the light behind you. So you know, unless you have fill in flash or something. So not everything translates, but I think a lot of things do, and I think the thing that is always going to translate is that concept of awareness and intentionality. You know, gear matters to some degree, but I think how you use it is going to be the most important aspect, I think. Yeah.
Sonny, thank you so much for joining us.
Sure.
Now, if people wanted to listen to you for hours, where could they go?
Well, you know, actually, they could listen to 20 years worth. So hours, it actually would be a lot. Head on over to podcaster.com. That's our website, podcaster.com. From there, you can jump off to many of the different resources we have available. You know, we have a blog that we write on. It also links to our videos, but mainly our audio-only, family-friendly, world's longest-running podcast about geocaching. You can find it there. You can also listen to us on any resource or system that provides podcasts, you know, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, et cetera, et cetera. You can find us Podcaster, Geocaching Podcast.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. We'll come back to you in just a moment. But folks, thanks for taking the time to listen to this episode of Caching in the Northwest. We hope you enjoyed it.
Absolutely. And we want to take a moment to thank Land Sharks and Cashly and Tourism Valemount. They're our corporate Denali level sponsors. Landsharks.ca is the Landsharks.ca. I'm just starting over. Is the outdoor adventure and geocaching store. Check them out online, and they ship online orders daily. Cashly is the geocaching app for iOS. And of course, whether you're seeking outdoor thrills or a peaceful retreat, Valemount awaits you. And to thank all of our faithful Denali level supporters, that is Land Sharks, Cashly, and Tourism Valemount. And it's also Cool Cow Cachers and Hawaiian Miley, who have saw both of them in the chat tonight. If you'd like to know more about supporting this show, click the Patreon link on the CachingNW.com website.
You know, when you don't read that section every week,
Every
like
week.
Lane Monkey does, it's tough.
You know,
you look at it, you go, yeah, I know what it says, but you really don't know what it says.
I could read it every week and still stumble, though. So
That's true. I do.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'd like to thank all of our supporters like Flagman,
Whidbey Island Gal,
Green Words,
Railroad,
Log Work.
Peach of Washington, hoping for a good recovery.
Yes. JT Coffee,
Subway Mark,
Lost Ken,
Geocaches,
Genies,
Trexer,
Alondro,
Just Finding Our Way,
Just Carlo,
Dora Moore,
Gundark 2000,
LG 9000,
Mountain Bike,
J-Car,
Seabeck Tribe,
Eats 94,
The Camp Clan,
GSM ×2,
Antaeus,
You, Dak,
Sprouter,
Kid Vegas 19,
GeoBirder,
CRS 98,
Katie Quest,
You Talks to Rocks,
The Caching Cants,
NW Cats,
Butterfly Girl,
Boomer 365,
Limax,
M-Nerve,
BC Rockcrawler,
The Terrible Tease,
Team Noltex,
GeoNav Pro,
Skyhawker,
Wet Coaster,
B Pendragon,
Gas Station Tuna,
Hackerduck,
Alan,
Alan. All right. Well, see, we covered Sonny's contact. Is there a way to any other way you want to get in touch with you?
No, just head on to Podcaster. I just wanted to note that so many of your supporters are high quality, obviously imaginative, creative, and good looking. because I recognize so many of those names, and it really strikes me how the geocaching community is so large and yet so small.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's very cool. I mean, I heard so many names that we've been in contact over many, many years or decades. And it's just cool to hear the names in other places, and just realize how fervent and active the geocachers are out there, and being part of this community is a great thing. And I'm sure you guys understand that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. And that's why I consider like a Geo Woodstock something more of a family reunion.
Yeah.
Very much.
Than, a big geocaching event. It's a chance to get together with people that maybe you don't see day to day, but you hear, you speak with, you communicate to in other ways. So
Yeah.
geocachers, they're just good people.
Yeah.
And Subway Mark says, you know what? It's always great to listen to and actually see Sonny.
Yeah.
Great as always.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, great chatting with you guys. I appreciate being here.
Thank you so much. And folks, we want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of Caching in the Northwest. Your support helps keep the quality shows coming. So if you like the show, please click the Patreon link on the cachingnw.com website. Better yet, share your ideas for things we can talk about. If you like the vibe, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and give us a review. If you were in a restaurant, you would tip. If you were in a live audience, you would clap. But since you're on a podcast, leave us a free, fast, fabulous, fantastic 5-star review. And of course, you can call into 253-693-TFTC and leave us a comment, ask a question, or Photoshop us into your family photos any time of the day or night. And of course, you can email us at feedback@cachingnw.com. Join us every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Pacific for a live show and even livelier chat. This show is produced by Chris Umfenauer, Jim Paulwitz, Jay Kennedy, and Brian Lang. It's licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license, copyright 2025 by Chris Umfenauer. Folks, I ask you to stay tuned for
The After Show.
That seemed louder than normal.
I don't know if we have any after show stuff tonight.
I don't know if we do. We don't have our chat lackey with us, so
Yeah, I didn't notice any going by. I tried to
didn't see any going by
keep
either.
tabs on it. So
one more thing from Starcacher. He says, for
Yeah.
video, the one thing I learned is when panning a scene, move at what you think is way too slow because it's not.
Yes. And if you're going to do any editing, put handles on it on the video. Start the video early and then keep going long after the shot is done. Because when you're editing, you sometimes need that extra space to trim off.
Yeah.
Says the professional cameraman there.
Those are both great tips, and especially the move slower than you think you need to. I don't know how many videos are like, because you're in the moment, you're excited, and you go, oh, there's that and this and this and this.
Right.
And it makes the viewer feel like
Motion sick.
Yeah, very much.
Right. Or you're taking a selfie and you go, oh, here, look at this person. Now look back at me.
Right.
No, it doesn't.
Good
and
tip.
Starcacher, you're right. The new browser seemed to have fixed my issue.
Yay!
Yeah, I'm glad you could join us for the whole podcast.
Yeah, it was actually fun to hear Sonny get a whole sentence out before my browser died. So it has to be StreamYard has added local recording on all ends, so you could do an end in what do they call it? End to end or end ender? What I've forgotten the term because I used to do it in the day, right? With Google Hangouts on Air, we're going to record both ends. Now they're tossing it in here, so it's happening whether we want it or not. And apparently, the browser I was using didn't have access to enough memory to handle that. So
interesting.
So good old Google Chrome comes through again.
Gotta love technology.
Isn't it great? It's always changing. Well, whether you want it to or not. Well, in that note, folks, thank you for joining us. And until next week, get out, take some pictures, and get caching in the Northwest.